Coldwater Ridge isn't the kind of place people visit by accident. It sits high in the Bitterroot Mountains of western Montana, a thin strip of road winding between pine forests and rock faces that seem to lean inward, as if listening. There's a weather station up there, a fire lookout tower that hasn't been staffed since the late 90s, a relay mast for state communications, and one gravel turnout overlooking a valley so deep it swallows sound. I worked nights at the weather station. The job was simple: monitor automated instruments, log readings, report anomalies to the regional office in Missoula. Most nights were empty. The wind did the talking. The forest creaked like old timber. Occasionally, a truck passed far below on Highway 12, its headlights crawling like insects along the switchbacks. The station itself was a concrete cube bolted into the rock. No windows, just steel doors, a radio room, and a narrow sleeping cot. The air always smelled faintly metallic, like wet batteries. Generators hummed in the basement. It was comforting in a mechanical way. Predictable. Routine protects you from thinking. My shift started at 11 p.m. I'd brew coffee, run a diagnostic on the instruments, then sit with the radio murmuring in the background. Static layered with distant voices. Truckers, park rangers, emergency bands. You learn to filter it into harmless noise. But in late October of 2019, the noise changed. I didn't notice it at first. I noticed the silence around it. There was a night when the forest went still. Not calm, not peaceful. Still. No wind in the needles. No distant owls. No small animal movement in the brush. It was like the mountain had inhaled and forgotten how to exhale. I stepped outside with my mug and felt it immediately. A pressure in the ears. Subtle, like descending in an airplane. The sky was clear, stars sharp and overcrowded. The Milky Way looked almost close enough to touch. And yet the air felt wrong. Cold, but not the kind of cold that bites. It pressed. Dense. Heavy. My breath came out slow and thick, as if the atmosphere had weight. I remember thinking, storm system? But the instruments showed nothing unusual. I went back inside and locked the door without realizing I'd done it. The radio hissed. For a moment, every channel dropped to pure static. Then the forest sounds returned all at once. Wind. Insects. A distant coyote. The pressure lifted. I laughed at myself. Altitude fatigue, I thought. The mountain playing tricks. I wrote nothing in the log. That was the last normal night. The first anomaly was the temperature. At 2:17 a.m., the station registered a drop of 19 degrees in under 30 seconds. That isn't weather. That's failure. I recalibrated the sensor. Same reading. Outside cameras showed frost forming across the gravel in real time. A white film crawling outward like spilled paint. The trees glistened. My breath fogged inside the airlock chamber before I even opened the outer door. Then the temperature snapped back. Not gradually. Instantly. The frost vanished. The gravel steamed. I stood there with my hand on the latch, feeling heat pulse through the metal. The radio clicked. Not static. Not voice. A rhythmic ticking, perfectly spaced. Like a metronome. It overrode every frequency at once. Emergency band. Aviation. Weather service. All of it replaced by the same ticking. I called Missoula. No response. The line was open. I could hear my own breathing echo faintly back at me, delayed by a fraction of a second. Then the ticking stopped. The forest outside didn't come back. It stayed quiet. That's when I saw the lights. Not in the sky. In the valley. 3 points of white suspended above the tree line. They didn't illuminate anything around them. No beams. No glow. Just presence. They were wrong in the way a reflection is wrong when it moves before you do. I stared long enough that my eyes started watering. When I blinked, they were closer. No motion. No trail. Just closer. A nausea rolled through me. Sudden and total. I stumbled back from the monitor and vomited into a trash bin without warning. My ears rang. A thin, steady tone like feedback trapped inside my skull. When I looked again, the valley was dark. The cameras showed nothing. But the animals didn't come back that night. Not one sound. At 4:03 a.m., every deer tracking tag in the wildlife grid went offline simultaneously. I didn't know that until the next day. The ranger station called asking if we'd had a surge. I said no. I didn't tell them about the lights. I didn't tell anyone. Some things sound stupid the moment you say them out loud, and some things feel safer if they stay unspoken. By November, Coldwater Ridge wasn't quiet anymore. It was avoided. Truckers reported dead radios when passing beneath the ridge. Engines stalling for exactly 11 seconds. No more. No less. Dash clocks resetting to midnight and staying there until they cleared the valley. A search team went looking for a missing hiker named Paul Renner. They found his backpack neatly folded beside the trail. His boots were placed next to it, laces tied. There were no footprints leading away. The ground was soft with mud from a recent thaw. Their own prints were deep and obvious. Renner's ended as if he'd stepped upward. I saw the photos later. The ranger showed them to me over coffee, his hand shaking just slightly. He laughed while he talked. People laugh when their brain can't file something properly. That same week, the station clock started losing time. Not much. 2 minutes per night. Then 5. Then 12. I check my phone, sync to satellite, and feel a creeping dread when the difference widened. The station logs didn't match external timestamps. It was as if the building existed in a thin pocket, slipping sideways. The pressure returned every night. That airplane ear sensation. Sometimes it came with a smell. Hot metal and ozone. Like a lightning strike trapped indoors. One night the generators cut out completely. Total darkness. The hum died mid-breath, and the silence that replaced it was so absolute I could hear my pulse in my teeth. I reached for the emergency light. Before my hand found it, something moved outside. Not footsteps. A sliding sound. Slow. Immense. Like weight shifting across rock. The walls vibrated softly. Dust trickled from the ceiling. The pressure in my ears spiked until I cried out. The pain was surgical, clean and blinding. I dropped to my knees and tasted blood in my mouth. Then the generators roared back. Lights snapped on. The sound stopped. The cameras were snowed out with static. Not digital artifact. Real static. White grain crawling across every feed like a blizzard trapped inside the lenses. In the morning, I found a ring of scorched earth around the station. Perfectly circular. 40 feet wide. The pine needles were fused into black glass. No burn marks on the building itself. No smell of fire. Just that metallic tang hanging low in the air. I reported it. Within 6 hours, unmarked trucks climbed the ridge. Men stepped out wearing Forest Service patches that were too new, too clean. They asked polite questions with rehearsed smiles. They photographed the ground, took soil samples, told me it was a rare electrical phenomenon. Ball lightning, they said. I nodded. We all pretended to believe it. That night, the ticking returned on the radio. And this time, it sounded closer. It happened on November 18th. The last entry in my official log reads, "Pressure anomaly. Investigating exterior." That's the last honest thing I wrote. The pressure hit like a descending elevator. My ears sealed shut. The air thickened until breathing felt like swallowing water. Every instrument in the station flatlined. Needles dropped to zero. Screens froze. The radio emitted a single sustained tone. I stepped outside because staying inside felt worse. The sky was wrong. Not dark. Dim. As if someone had placed smoked glass over the stars. The forest stood frozen mid-motion. Branches bent in the wind, but didn't move. Needles hung suspended. A bird was caught in the air 20 feet above the tree line, wings half open, perfectly still. The world had been paused. Except for me. And the thing above the ridge. It wasn't shaped. Not in a way my eyes could hold. Looking at it felt like trying to remember a dream while it was still happening. My vision slid off its edges. It occupied space the way a shadow occupies light, defined only by what it displaced. The air beneath it sagged. I felt my body lean toward it, pulled by a gravity that wasn't downward. My skin prickled. Every hair lifted. My teeth vibrated with a low-frequency hum I couldn't hear, but somehow felt. There was no sound, no wind, no insects, just my breathing and the pounding of my heart. The thing descended without moving. One moment, it was above the ridge. The next, it was closer. The distance between us didn't shrink. The space folded. My nose filled with the smell of burning metal. My eyes watered. Tears floated from my face and hung in front of me, trembling like beads of glass. I tried to step back. My foot didn't reach the ground. I looked down and saw the gravel suspended beneath me, each stone frozen mid-fall. I was floating in a moment that refused to pass. And it was looking at me, not with eyes, with attention, a pressure inside my skull, gentle, curious, like fingers turning pages. Memories flickered, childhood rooms, faces, sounds, not recalled, but exposed. I felt them being observed without permission. I tried to scream. No sound left my mouth. The thing moved closer again. My vision tunneled. The edges of the world peeled away into black. Only the shape remained, impossible and intimate. My chest tightened until I was certain my ribs would crack inward. Then it touched me. Not physically. The pressure vanished. The forest exploded back into motion. Wind slammed into my body. The bird shot forward in a panic. Sound returned all at once. A roar of insects, leaves, my own scream ripping free. I hit the ground hard. The sky was empty. The ridge was silent. The station lights flickered behind me. I lay there shaking, staring at the place where it had been, knowing with absolute certainty that something had recognized me, and I had been measured. I lost 6 hours. The log jumped from 1:12 a.m. to 7:03 a.m. I don't remember entering the station. I don't remember writing the final entry. All systems nominal. It wasn't my handwriting. The letters were too precise, too evenly spaced, like a machine imitating a person. By noon, the trucks returned. More of them. Men in darker uniforms this time. No patches. No names. They sealed the station and escorted me down the mountain without explaining why. I wasn't arrested. I wasn't threatened. I was thanked. Repeatedly. At a facility outside Missoula, I answered questions under bright lights that hummed softly. They asked about weather patterns, electrical surges, my sleep schedule. They never asked about the sky. When I tried to tell them anyway, the man across from me smiled in a tired, sympathetic way. Altitude stress, he said. Isolation can produce vivid experiences. He slid a form across the table. I signed it because my hands wouldn't stop shaking. Coldwater Ridge closed 2 days later for structural repairs. The fire lookout tower was dismantled. The relay mast removed. Satellite images of the area now show a smear of distortion where the station used to be. Like the ground refuses to resolve properly. Paul Renner was never found. Neither were 3 elk fitted with tracking collars in the same valley. Their signals continue to transmit. Stationary. From a point in the sky 12 miles above the ridge. The coordinates haven't changed in 6 years. I don't work nights anymore. I don't work alone. I can't stand silence. When a room gets too quiet, the pressure returns. My ears seal. The air thickens. I smell hot metal where there's nothing burning. Sometimes my clocks lose a minute. Sometimes more. Doctors say it's trauma. They say the brain fills gaps with stories. But I don't remember a story. I remember attention. I remember being open like a drawer. There are nights I wake up standing by the window, looking at the sky without knowing how long I've been there. My reflection stares back, and for a moment it doesn't move when I do. Just a fraction of a second late. Like it's catching up. Last winter, my phone recorded a burst of audio at 3:11 a.m. while I slept. 37 seconds of sound. I played it once. It's the ticking from the radio. Perfectly spaced. Measured. Patient. I keep the file deleted, but it comes back after every update. Same timestamp. Same length. No metadata. No source. Sometimes, when I'm driving at night, my engine cuts out. Exactly 11 seconds. The dash clock resets to midnight. And in that dead silence, with the car coasting and the world holding its breath, I feel it again. Not in the sky. Close. Waiting. As if the encounter on Coldwater Ridge wasn't an event. It was an introduction. And somewhere above the mountains, fixed at an altitude where no aircraft can hover, something still holds its position. Unmoving. Listening. Keeping time.